22 years since the 9/11 terrorist attacks in the US that killed almost 3,000 people. Now, never before published footage at the moment, Channel 7 broke the news here in Australia, has been uncovered on YouTube.
This is 7 News.
Good evening. New York is in the grip of a disaster tonight. 2 planes have crashed into the top of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, and terrorists are believed to be responsible. One of the planes is believed to have been an American Airlines Boeing 767. It's believed to have been hijacked, and there are also reports of an explosion at the Pentagon. We'll cross live now to NBC.
Earlier this morning for an event on literacy. He was going to a school to talk with kids.
Now that adds on to other archive footage of the attacks already available online, but that specific news from Channel 7 has never been published before. 6 News spoke to Richmond historian Rhett Bartlett about the find.
When 9/11 happened, I remember watching it on TV, and so I was watching the Talking Footy broadcast at the time in Melbourne. And then the news came through on a special news break just for Channel 7 with Nat Barr, and being the news junkie that I am, I thought I want to see what's going on here. But they went back to Talking Footy, so I switched over to CNN and watched the broadcast. And 20 years later, or 21, 22 years later, I thought, I don't think we've ever seen that footage. And I actually rang Channel 7 and asked them, do they have the Talking Footy episode that was apparently interrupted by the broadcast of the September 11 attacks? And they came back to me and said they've checked their archives and they don't. So the next step is just to reach out on Twitter. And that's what I did. And as you said, Leo, we were lucky. We had 2 different people reach out. David M. Green was one of them, who had the Melbourne footage. And then another person who goes by the Twitter handle of Trot Stats, like a horse racing thing. He had the Adelaide broadcast, and they're actually 2 quite different interruptions, so to speak, because of the time difference between Melbourne and Adelaide.
Do we know at that point in the night when they ran that final news break before they went back to Talking Footy and then eventually the late news, if the second tower had been hit at that point? Because in retrospect, it obviously seems very odd that they just didn't go straight to rolling coverage for a pretty significant event as it ended up being.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if you try and map out the timeline, I think what happens on the Melbourne broadcast is Nat Barr says there's a plane has flown into the building. And that's the information that we have at the moment. And then shortly after that, there's the second attack that happens, but Channel 7 don't even come back with a second news break on that. They just continue with what I'm assuming is a pre-recorded Talking Footy that's taking place with Bruce McAvaney. And so there's about 30 minutes that pass if you're watching in Melbourne on Channel 7 before they, as you said, they end the show. So the entire Talking Footy episode actually takes place in Melbourne, which might surprise some people who have memories of it interrupting and going to the rolling coverage, but it doesn't. The entire Melbourne Talking Footy broadcast goes right to the end. There's a Darren Jarman montage, as you said, right at the end. They even then do a few little, what do you call it, idents or promos. I think there's one for Thorpe's Angels or something like that. He's pointing, with his angels there. And then they go into a news break, and by which stage it's escalated further. And Nat Barr now says, there's been 2 plane attacks as well. And they then take I think they take NBC's coverage and also CNN's coverage. And then Nat Barr consistently comes back to the Melbourne audiences or to the Channel 7 audiences to update us to what's going on from an Australian point of view, because Bill Clinton was in Australia at the time and John Howard was in Washington, etc. It's just surprising, Leo, that looking at it now, it would have been handled completely different now, wouldn't it? In this day and age, they would have gone to the news, they would have gone to the breaking news, and if they had gone back to Talking Footy, they would have certainly have come back again to more breaking news. I think they wouldn't have just let the episode go on to its completion for another 30 minutes or so.
And now, of course, Adelaide viewers were half an hour behind. What differences did they see compared to those Melbourne viewers?
Well, the Adelaide viewers, they were watching Bruce interviewing a footballer, and then he throws to an ad break, and they never come back to the show. They go to the actual Channel 7 broadcast, the news broadcast with Nat Barr. So that gives you an idea of sort of that 30-minute time frame that we're talking about between the Melbourne broadcast, where they kept going, and the Adelaide, where they then just go straight into Nat Barr's broadcast. So many Adelaide viewers contacted me and said, we never saw the end of the interview. We never saw the last half an hour of Talking Footy. We never saw the Darren Jarman montage or whatever it was that ended the broadcast. So two completely different ways that took place, based entirely on the fact that there was a time zone difference.